Welcome everybody to the first episode of Proxy Podcast. We're going to talk about pretty much everything Descent. We have our first guest here today, but before we jump into that, I just want to go over some of the major news happening in Descent right now. Some of the major events starts off with my personal fork, D1X SNG. It's a D1 Retro AR fork that as of now has made over 15 aesthetic quality of life features and even a new game mode deathmatch, and that'll be in the 1.6 release. Also, we have the Observatory tournament. It's coming up. Is it the first Saturday of February or?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is the first. I'll find out. Hold on.
Okay, but it should be the first Saturday of February. So we'll have like a FFA. For those who aren't familiar, we'll have like an FFA and then like a 1v1 tournament bracket following after. One of the things I'm really excited about, Inferno Editor version 1.0.10 now supports custom texture editing, and that also goes with sprite and icon altering. As far as I know, besides D1X, I don't think that this at a modern scale has been this possible before. So I'm really excited.
Definitely not.
And Proxy 1 has actually been leaking pictures of tunnel building currently in development.
Oh, yes, he mentioned about portals, didn't he, before? Like in D3 edit. I remember you used to be able to do that.
Oh, okay. But
is he looking at working just like beyond cubes and segments, different shapes?
I'm not sure, but I know a lot of his screenshots recently have been like regular cubes that morph like on the end, and that's as a result of like a generated builder. I'm not really sure.
Okay.
I imagine he's probably messing with that though. There's no telling what he's doing.
Yeah, right.
Community legend Arn has released a new AR version called Retro AR 36B that supports local file images to replace game images and sprites. And I kind of talked about this a few days ago in the Descent Dev Discord. But basically, any image format with the same name as the original image replaces the one in the game. So you can actually replace pyro models, cockpit images, like gauge images. It's really cool. Arn is a really awesome developer, and you'll probably hear his name a lot in this podcast and maybe more following. But next we have Cajun Land 2023 in Louisiana. This is the second week of August. Specific dates are pending. But direct message Jedi/Zor for addresses, or you could message me and then we can work cordially from that point. And lastly, Descent 1 Workshop is a Hog Pig DXA patcher and unpacker that was released by Arn a few months ago. It's an amazing tool that nobody really talks about, that if you see on my YouTube channel is how I created the Phoenix Cannon in D1. It's really, really cool stuff, and it's something that I think is one of the best tools for Descent ever, really. You know, as far as the custom ability, but it's great stuff.
Absolutely.
That's it for the news, though, at least what I can think about. But our first guest for Proxy Podcast today is going to be Lee. Lee is a community community-driven player overseas who the community calls Lee, and I call my fellow OTL cowboy. Lee is an author of 30 published maps, DXMA, formerly DMDB, some of which are regarded as big maps for Descent, such as KO, I Don't Care, and my personal favorite 7-Eleven. Some of his maps has made its way into Overload and maintains a steady level of play. Not a lot of people know about it, but his custom map texture ability far surpasses at least 99% of the map editors today. I genuinely do look up to like your custom texture ability. Like, that's one thing I've always been really envious about, and you were the first person to even show me that existed a long time ago. Do you remember Vertigo? That map that I made?
Yeah, and making a custom sign on the wall, didn't we?
Yep. You blew my freaking mind, dude. I was like 15 or 16 at the time, and I didn't even know that existed. But
yeah. Well, all the tools have been there for years, but then, as with time, I still had a laptop that had Windows XP, so I still could use some of them, like DTX. Whereas Most people had obviously moved on since then, and it wasn't compatible. But yeah, I just remember being a kid again, like we were saying before, being about 11, 12, and just messing around. And I'd never known a game where you could just customize so many
Right.
things and add your own things in. It's yeah, even from a very young age, I was yeah, it was great. So
I think it's just a really good thing that Descent became open source, where people could like make tools like that. Because
yeah,
I don't think no, the developers never made tools like that. It was all the community, right? DTX and everything.
yeah. As far as I'm aware, it was yeah. You had the there's lots and lots of tools, but they were published on the Descent website, so like the descentnetwork.com and descent2.com. But as far as I was aware, they were all community.
Man, that's and the funny part is stuff's still coming out. Like D1W just came out recently. Inferno Editor just came out recently. I
Yeah.
mean, I love the tools for this game, and I know I brought this up before, but I'm specifically really excited to use Inferno Editor once he releases the tunnel building update. I'm not sure when it's coming out. I know he's working on it, but the texture editing sprite icon pretty much replaces D1X completely or DTX completely. Like
Yeah.
uses DTX files, but anyways, my bad. Um, Regardless of the custom texture ability, his maps are just plain sexy. I feel
I'm
very
glad you
lucky.
think so.
Yeah, I I feel very lucky to regard Lee as my fellow pilot and my friend, and I couldn't be more excited
So,
to have Lee as Proxy's first guest. So please, Lee, let us spew, man. What's going on in the world of you?
hey, yeah, not a whole lot really. A bit of a lazy Sunday, but yeah, very honoured to be the first one on here. And yeah, here's many
Yeah,
more
absolutely.
pattern to this. Then I mean, I could talk about when I started playing and why, and I can tell you about how the only reason I was able to play Descent in the first place was that we had bought a computer back in 1995, I think, in
Wow.
1996, and came with, as you used to get quite often back then, used to have a lot of free software, and I had a CD that was half Virtual Pool 3D and half Descent, and little did I know I'd still be playing it well
Right.
over 20
To
years
this
later,
day, right?
which
Yeah.
yeah, which is pretty crazy to be honest. But and yeah, just going back to what you said about the tools and the development, it's crazy that people were still working so hard and so avidly to get things out and to update them um, and no, I think that really speaks of the game and how good it is, and that if it was rubbish and it was just a fad and it's just something people picked up for the time, it
Right.
wouldn't. I don't think it would have ever carried as long as it has, and through the various ladders and the various ports, etc. And I think it's pretty crazy to think, you best part of 20 years later, and
Still going.
we're learning new things and yeah, new tools, like you say about the texture packs and with the tunnels that Proxy One's making, and obviously the levels that Blarget's made recently as well.
Yeah.
Salad Badger with Chocolate Descent, which for me personally is, I think it's the most accurate port since playing the original many years ago, and yeah, just I don't know, it's really refreshing that something that we've all spent so much time playing on over the years and hold so dearly is kept going, and even so far as Ronkley with the Observatory and yourself with Project D and the podcast obviously today, it's just yeah, it's really refreshing. It just makes you feel good, you know.
I think one of the most admirable things about Descent, especially the community, is just the community in itself. I have people like one of my best friends. He tells me all the time that he's so jealous of that I have a community like this. It's rare to say that you can meet these people in real life. It's rare to say that you play these games with these people and you know intimate details about them because you really are just friends. And I think
Yeah,
that speaks
yeah,
volumes for
absolutely.
how niche and close this community is. And it's good too as well because um, a lot of the people that play this game are usually tech savvy. So in result of that, you have people like Arn or like Salad Badger, people like Ronkai, for instance, huge motivator to the entire freaking franchise at this point.
Yeah, of course.
It's really nice to have that type of community that not only keeps it alive but also builds on top of it. And that's really been happening a lot lately, with like you said, with all the tools. I mean, it really seems like people are making an effort to bring it back.
Yeah, and just keep that enthusiasm going. There's so much for it and so much love for the game, and that doesn't happen by accident. It's just that the original game was so good, and people have all these memories of it, and you know even after all this time, keep coming back, and it's just really refreshing. And with regards to the community, that it's so nice to have these people that again are like-minded and share the same views, and not on everything, of course, but
Right.
it makes it so much better to be a part of, and especially the people that we play against in, but obviously me and yourself play in the observatory every other month, which I believe is also first week of February, but we'll check that check later with Romply. It's just so refreshing because it's not just like a random person from around the world. It's people that you've been playing with for, well, in some cases years already, and you know quite well in that sense, and makes it a lot nicer.
Absolutely, man. So I guess that's a good segue to kind of going into playing Descent for a long time. Where did you actually discover Descent? Obviously, you were a child, but
The software itself came with the PC when I was very young, and I played it, and I was quite fascinated, and I'd not known a game like it. We'd had an old Amiga 510, Amiga Commodore, and most of the games obviously being 2D. It's one of the first 3D games I actually played, and
right.
I was hooked from a very young age, and very sad when I wasn't playing. I was rereading through the manuals and wishing I could play multiplayer, which I did years later through PAN in the early 2000s, and I've loved it since.
That's really interesting. So the shareware came with the computer?
Oh, it was freeware. Yeah, it was a CD with Virtual Pool and Descent on it.
Holy
So it was
cow.
just by chance. But yeah, I'd played in the early 2000s online every now and then. I was awful. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even have by default you didn't have the slide keys left, right, up and down mapped. So I used to play on trainee, and when I was playing single player, go online and then not slide. So as you can imagine, I died lots and lots and lots and lots. But still fun, honestly.
It's hard to imagine even playing at a competitive level without slide. That's insane.
It was pretty crazy. Yeah, just going basically forward and backwards, or slightly turning, basically felt like driving a car, playing sick stuff. Which not ideal.
I mean, some people get close. Like, was it Slurpee who had like freaking 2 paddles and like 2 joysticks and like a crap ton of stuff?
God, yeah.
I mean, I remember he put that screenshot. I think it was it might have been Mumble or Discord or the forums on the DCL, but it was insane. Like, when I saw that, it was like, no freaking dude is literally flying an airplane when he loads up that application. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, good luck to him. I don't understand. I mean, I started keyboard only, then keyboard mouse, and I can't imagine using anything else.
I know.
Even people use joysticks. Was it D uses 2 joysticks, or did he use 2 joysticks?
I think you're thinking of Destroyer. I think he uses 2 joysticks. He has like a.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But Borjanon still uses a keyboard only.
Yeah. Super Bob, he's keyboard only, isn't he?
Is he seriously?
I think he is. Yeah,
he's actually really good.
He's come on. He's obviously keen. Keeps playing and keeps playing in the obs, and I see him on free for alls every now and then. So
that's really interesting. I can't imagine people actually playing with keyboard, and other than Borjanon, I didn't think anyone was crazy enough to use it. But who knows? I mean, to each their own, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess in part it might be sentimentality. Like if you started off using just keyboard, you might want to carry on. But yeah, as soon as I found the mouse, I never went back. No way. So
right. I mean, the mouse owns in all games. I think controllers are the worst way to play video games. That's just my opinion.
Oh, dude. I mean, yeah. Some it's not so bad depending on the game, but like if you're trying to aim, like if it's a first-person shooter, or even I tried to play Overload with a controller the other day, and I was awful. I got eaten up. I just can't use the sticks. Can't use the sticks well enough to aim in the way that you could, with keyboard and mouse. But yeah,
I mean, the Six Degrees of Freedom, and I've given it a genuine effort. 6 Degrees of Freedom is probably one of the hardest genres to play with a controller in, and that's one of the reasons I have so much respect for B2AF in that way. Like he plays it like a champ. I mean, he's the like probably the top gold pilot, you know, and I don't know, man. He uses an Xbox controller beautifully in any competitive 1v1. Like
yeah. I don't know
it's
how he does
unreal.
that. Like I tried, like I say, and like I tried with Overload, and I'd remapped all the keys or buttons even. Like several times, just trying to figure out like how I could do this at the same time as that, and how I could
Right.
slide and move forward, or move backward and slide up, or slide right at the same time. And there's nothing that worked. But you wouldn't think of it. Like if you saw him play, you wouldn't necessarily think he was a controller. But
Yeah. No.
obviously his efficiency of movement, like yourself, in terms of how quickly and how smoothly you can turn and maneuver. But yeah, really impressive.
Yeah, I've seen his. I've seen obviously him being a close relative of mine. I've seen him up close. I've seen how he turns, and I do not think anyone in the community is close to his level of hip fire. I mean, he's one pilot I just can't get behind. Like I could even get behind Jedi maybe if I'm lucky. But when it comes to Brian, his sharp turns or B2AF. I might accidentally call him Brian a few times. Just explain it to everybody. He's my
Sorry.
first cousin, but yeah, it's like it's difficult to get around him because slight movements on his joystick are like jerk reactions. I've seen it, especially at LAN. On like a big TV. You're sitting there watching him, and he looks like he's making really minimal movement, but in reality, it's like incredibly sharp, quick reactions.
Yeah.
But I guess I have that kind of respect for controllers.
Yeah, it is impressive. Just yeah, like you, I just using it for myself. Like I can't comprehend it. Like just stick with a mouse and keyboard. Yeah,
So let's see here. All right, I got a serious question for you.
go for it.
What do you prefer, Overload or Descent?
It's a not contest. I like Overload, but there's no there's not the love for it really. And I don't want to sound sad, but just being like a little kid and playing like Descent for the first time, and that experience, and that finding out again, like I said, about playing 3D games really for the first time, and it was just like nothing else. Yeah, it doesn't compare.
So,
As good as Overload is.
what do you enjoy about Overload? Is it the team aspect or?
Very much so. I mean, I kind of wish that Descent had more of a team aspect. Not that I'd look for something to replace like the OTL. I think it's a really good league, a really good system, and Ronkley obviously manages it really well too. But yeah, Overload. I do like the idea of having like more ammo weapons as opposed to just the energy. I do
Right.
think it's hard to balance, but yeah, it's just the flight model obviously being different in that Descent. Yeah, yeah, the sensitivity in like the flight model was slightly different in that you could only move so far and it's more limited. Whereas obviously people were just literally turning on a dime and killing you in Overload,
Right.
and it's not out of luck or anything. They've obviously worked on it, but it's yeah. I do like how it is faster as well as like a change up from just playing Descent.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. So, how would you feel about like a team anarchy coming into Descent? Very similar to that of OTL.
I'd love it. I mean, we
Right?
experimented over a time. Do you remember when it was the Good Luck Have Fun League?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we played a game. I think it was me, you, Lito, and Maestro quite a while ago,
Holy
and
crap.
it
Yeah.
was good fun. really good fun. I think obviously there's so many levels out there as well, not just the ones that get commonly played, but ones that would be perfectly suited for having twos, maybe even threes. And yeah, I think everything's there for it, and it'd just be great to play some games and a bit further.
I think that was before OTL, right? I think OTL was like 3 years old now.
I think with what Good Luck Have Fun League was like, or GHLF was 2018. So it was a good, well,
Okay.
Jesus, about 5 years ago now. But yeah.
Man, well, I've really been thinking about something like that, and that might poke rock climb be something fun to kind of invest in, like a project or anyone willing. I mean, I don't have the mental capacity to create like a straight up leaderboard or whatever, but I
Oh,
think now is probably the best time, like right now, to start a teams league for Descent. With
yeah,
Overload being as big as it is, and half of Overload being, having the capacity to play Descent, you know, I think it might be a really good time to do it.
absolutely. I mean, as good a time as any. It might even get more people playing. Might
Yeah.
introduce people that maybe have played Overload or other six off games that, it's easier to go into it as a team rather than, like a 1v1 and especially if there's like a big skill gap, which there's going to be with it being an old game because the people that play it have played it for
Right.
a very long time. They've played it a long time, so they're very good. And it's hard to start up playing and when the only people you can play against are really good.
Right.
But
Exactly.
yeah, more players, more teammates, just ease that pressure a bit and make it fun. Yeah, by all means.
I love to see the Rangers get involved too. That'd be pretty cool. I feel like that would be something they'd get involved in as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a capacity for it to exist in like a casual way as well. Just something every now and then, people meeting together, just play. It doesn't necessarily have to be something super competitive. I mean, like the OTL. The OTL for 5 months at a time is very casual, and you take it for what you want. But then obviously got the playoffs or the best of the rest, where people obviously take it a bit more seriously and a bit more competitive. But yeah, I see no reason why it can't exist.
Yeah,
I think it
absolutely,
should.
man. That's definitely an idea to consider, and something that I would love. I want to, and I was just telling B too. Like, I think as far as Project D, I think 2v2, 3v3, Team Anarchy honestly should be a primary focus, or either the or a primary focus. Because I
Yeah,
feel like if we just create the same 1v1 thing that's been done over and over, it might not bode as well as something new and relevant as Team Anarchy.
yeah. I mean, 1v1. As much as I like playing 1v1, and I know you do too, and obviously there's quite a few people that play in Observatory. Like we're
Right.
getting, like I was talking to you before. We regularly get 5 games around. So about 10 to 12 people
Yeah.
each
Right.
month. So which again is really impressive
It
and
is decent. Yeah.
makes it so much better. Yeah. But having more people play there makes it so much more enjoyable, and
Hmm.
yeah, it's. But going back to the 2v2, yeah, it hasn't been done. Obviously, there's other aspects like working together, communication. It'd be interesting if it was friendly fire on or off, but that's another thing that could be obviously tackled at another time. But yeah, I think there's so much more scope for it that hasn't been, like the ground to be tread, if you like.
So, like you mentioned OBS earlier. In the topic of OBS, do you have a do you have a specific OBS moment that you just really look at fondly, like something you always like to think about when you think about OBS?
Probably every time Melvin killed himself with proxies, which happened quite a few times,
Okay.
kind of lost count. Um, no, there's always certain games that like I played, which I'll think of, or even just certain matchups. Like I want to say season 5 finals where Bahamut played Mark in
Mm.
Untitled, which was such a great show of skill, and it was
That
such a
was
good
so long
game.
ago. Wow.
Yeah,
Holy
yeah.
wow,
I
dude. We're
was
what, season 31 now?
Yeah, will be
Oh my gosh.
February, yeah, 31. But I was cataloguing some of the old games because I put together a spreadsheet not too long ago, just because we'd mentioned earlier, there's so much content that happens in OBS that either doesn't get covered because there's only they can obviously watch one game at a time, and there's just so much like content that's just there that doesn't either get seen or doesn't get picked up on, and so I put together like a spreadsheet of all the games for all the pilots, like just look at all the levels that were used, the results, and just it was really nice to actually do it, which sounds pretty lame, but
No.
for the sake of doing a spreadsheet, but no, just to remember some of
Wow.
those games as well. See,
Well, there's a lot of
yeah,
moments, you know. It's honestly a really good idea to keep track of it because you know when you really think about how many OBS games have been played, like what 31 seasons. That's like what like it's like what like four games. What like four games broadcasted besides the FFA. So like
I mean, there's been a crazy amount. I mean, it's
yeah.
been going on for probably 6 years, right?
Oh, it has to be longer than that. Has to be. Well, I don't know. The DCL is about that old. I don't. Well, no, DCL is about like 7.5, maybe 8.
The first game I played in it, I played against Morford in RIP, and that
Bless your
was
soul.
supposedly it was 7th of January 2017.
Wow. Oh wow. Wow. That was
So over 6 years.
that
Pretty crazy.
was I want to say that was I think that was January. I was I joined Descent in May of 2017. So
Okay.
that was like holy crap. That was a long time. Oh my god. I don't want to think about how long it's been, dude. That's crazy.
I know, it makes you feel old.
Do
Been
you have
playing
any
this so long.
I know, right? Like I was me by the way, for the stream or for the people listening, I had a LAN yesterday. Or I guess was it 2 days ago?
Oh yeah,
It was yeah, it was yesterday. No, sorry, it was the 20th, Friday. I had an Arizona LAN with Rethink and Jedi, and
it's nice. Yeah,
we was sitting on the couch like just like we were just best friends, right? Spending almost a decade together. We were just sitting on the couch watching an observatory tournament. We didn't watch it for long, but we was spectating my game between Sirius, and I looked at the date. And it was 4 years ago. 4 years ago, I was like a bottom silver pilot playing against Sirius, and I think it was Fable, DKH's Fable. And I was just sitting there like, dude, time is flying by like crazy. And I think it does. Like this is one of those things where you're kind of in and out. As far as like being active in the community. It's easy for time to pass by because it's a huge part of your life, but you kind of take breaks in between. Some more
of
time has
course.
passed. But I don't know. It's just kind of crazy how fast time flies and how that type of stuff is
Yeah,
so far ago. Yeah.
honestly, I remember. Obviously, he did a couple of tournaments first. Like if you go on YouTube and look up Wrongly,
Hmm.
there was a couple of ob seasons he did. Not in the same format, but they were like trophies and home. Like there was like a event of like challenging people on their homes. The trophies
What
was like fusion trophy
on
and
Obs?
uh, but before the first season, so there was like a couple
Oh,
of like the odd like event kind of days where he did it, and that was obviously before we started playing. But I remember when he first announced it and being so excited about it, and yeah, it's Jesus, yeah, 6 years.
how can I call myself a Descent fan and I had no clue about that at all? Like, kind of
Like,
blowing my
but I
mind right
mean,
now.
it's before in a sense, it's before your time. I mean, that's you joined. I want to say your first game was season 4. The first season you played in.
Yeah, actually, I think so. I think he has a name. Yeah, yeah, it was season 4. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because you played Raptor, you played Maestro, and
Oh
then
my
obviously you
god,
came
that's
back for
right.
season 5. Yeah,
Holy crap,
but
dude! I
yeah,
forgot all about Raptor. Man.
Yeah, he's a fun fact about Raptor. He is, I'm pretty sure, only one of everyone who's ever played OBS with 100% record. Oh no, I lie. Actually, he's one of 2 people with 100% record. I lie again. He's one of 3.
Like, as
I'll
of
stop lying
winning?
now. Yeah, to be fair, he only played 1 game and he won that one.
Oh, when he beat
But
me in
yeah,
SN?
yeah. Can you guess the other 2? The other 2 pilots with perfect records.
It's not 0. It's not. Well,
0, no. He's
okay.
one of them you remember, Gold Pilot.
Demos?
Quite good with Vulcan.
Oh, Cyrus?
Good guess, but no. Almost keep going. Around the time of Cyrus. Yeah, go on. That one.
Oh my god, it's at the tip of my tongue. Why can't I say it?
Well,
Does he live in Japan?
oh no, you're thinking of Hyper, I think.
Yeah, I think
or
I'm Hyper.
AOD High.
What was the other one, though?
A Vaniac.
Vaniac!
Vaniac
That's what I was wanting to say.
played 2 games in Season 9 and won both. And the other one was DJC. Oh, no, that can't be right. Maybe.
Yeah, DJ, I'm pretty sure he lost to Jedi at one point, didn't he?
Did lose a Jedi at one point, yeah. Maybe that was in finals. But anyway, so maybe just 2 of them then, in that case.
I remember the first time I ever beat Vaniac. I was in Logic. And DJ CJR, have yet to beat him. Dude, he is so good. I wish he wasn't. Like, if he de-rested and took the game completely serious, the gold structure would be completely different as it is now, you know?
Yeah, he's very talented and very skilled.
Man. And that goes for
He
a lot of the
started off,
pilots.
yeah.
Imagine if Sirius
Yeah.
took it seriously. Or sorry,
Yeah.
Cyrus, sorry.
Oh, I thought you were making a pun, to be fair. But yeah. No, yeah, there's quite a few of them. Quite a few of the gold pilots that are really good, and obviously would welcome them coming onto Observatory. And yeah, as much as you want to win, you want the competition to be good, and people around you play it to be, in the best. So please get to see him again in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know he pokes in a few times. I saw him, I want to say a few months ago in an open game. So, I mean, he's
Okay.
around. I just think he probably tapped out of the competitive for good reason, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you've had it yourself, but like it's easy to get burnt out, especially if you're you're constantly playing and you're wanting to improve, and just it can wear on you. It's just a matter of taking breaks and time, and I'm sure plays for his own reasons and plays to enjoy it, and yeah, pops in every now and then for fun.
Yeah, 1v1 specifically tend to kind of bring the worst out of you. You know, it's like when you're so close and you lose to something you really can't control. It just
God, yeah.
it's very frustrating.
Oh, dude, the burn, literally, physically, the burn after is horrible. And then it's not just the burn, but like, say if you're going to bed like not long after, and then it's like in your head and you're awake and you're alive because you're playing, you're hyper aware, and you got the burn. It's just like, oh, yeah, not fun. But we've all had it.
So do you have any pre-game rituals, like something you habitually do before games, whether it be observatory or regular?
I do actually, yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm so glad you said that.
No, I mean it's nothing weird. Like I don't like click my toes and and go through like 5 different rituals in the same order, just to like do a rain dance to one of the gods to wish me luck for the games. But I mess around with a couple of levels I made. So I made a level called Super Happy Funland.
Yep.
And I made quite a few mods of it, but one of it was Super Happy Target Land, where I basically placed a load of doors that I replaced the texture for as like a pyro, like a bullseye.
Mm-hmm.
And what that allowed me to do was to take all the weapons that are in the level, which was all the primaries, so obviously lasers, Vulcan, Spreadfire, Plasma, Fusion, and the missiles as well, because you could obviously use it for that purpose too. And I would go around trying to hit all the targets, and I would do it from different distances. I'd do it from moving at different points, like obviously, not just being square, like or stationary and hitting the targets, but also moving, sliding, sliding forward, and moving forward and sliding, going up as well, etc. But I usually try and do that before I play any OBS tournaments, and I check my distances as well in terms of like the different weapons, and just look at I often use the top of KO and look how far away I am and just see how long it takes. I know it sounds stupid, but like how long it takes for like the projectiles to actually hit the wall, and how big they are when they hit the wall, like how much space, and then try and think, like if I was shooting down a corridor, would I be able to hit like that ship, or would I need to move up, or how much room do they cover? And the other one I do is I made 2 levels quite recently, which I haven't released because it's just for like training purposes.
Okay.
Just a couple of levels called Target, which I've added all the weapons in, and it's just shooting down different length corridors. So like single wides, double wides, and then for a distance, but then putting some targets in so I can hit them. And the other one I did, which was more for free space, was I created a room that was about 4 cubes wide by 2 tall, and then like 8 long, and I wanted to kind of hitting free moving targets, which obviously they're static because they're multiple doors have been retextured, but hitting them, but also not hitting the sidewalls, because it's easy when you're shooting down a long corridor and you turn left too much or you turn right too much, and then you're hitting a wall and someone's at the other end, because it's a completely wasted shot, because unless they're gonna charge forward, then you miss them completely. But I've made one where I had like a lava around like the sides of where the shots would be. So like if I missed, you could tell from the lava that it was a miss, and that it's basically a pointless shot based on where your opponent is. And then had an area where if you shooting from far enough back, based on the angle, that's a valid shot and that's a good shot, because it will carry you pretty much all the way through to the end of the far wall. So it's got a good chance of hitting them. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Just basically a bit of mouse movement as well, targets, just to listen up and just get a feel for it. It's hard when you're not playing every day and as much as like we used to play. But just getting a feel for it, really.
I kind of want to touch on a little bit of what you said. As far as getting like as far as using new techniques in map making, like surrounding the walls with texture and adding some things. I think one thing that's always bothered me as far as like map making is new ideas are often controversial or maybe hard to understand. Like to me, that makes so much sense. That should be in every freaking map, right? Like I feel like
Sure.
I feel like concepts that kind of aid your game and also give the map flavor or practicality. I feel like that's really really important.
No, absolutely, yeah. And it's just like you've seen with the like people making the tools and like the texture uploaders and Inferno editor and stuff. Like it should be progressive. It should be trying to think like, what can we make new? What can we add? Not just resting on your laurels and being like, let's play the same level a million times for the rest of the future and let's call it. We don't have to play any other levels. No, you try new things. You try and be expansive and try and build, don't you? And a couple of things I was thinking of on the subject of levels is I really wanted to incorporate like the blow walls.
The what?
Blow doors. So like in a single player where the hostages are kept, so you've got like a blow door.
Oh yeah. Oh okay.
So it's got like HP. So like if you damage it to a point, then obviously the texture changes, and then obviously you to a point where it blows up and then it's gone. But then that's a space in which you can then go through, whereas before you couldn't. That's something I really wanted to incorporate in the level, and I will do at some point in the future. But I think there's scope for that in terms of like there's specifically a blow wall texture that's like the default grey texture that you could put it on. It would look like the rest of them without even having to re-texture it or make anything crazy, and just blow it up, and then you've got another space in which you can go into another part of the level that you can like
maybe
if you had a 1v1 in there. Like say it again, sorry.
Well, you could like blow it open and like access a unique weapon, or maybe like a mega or something.
Yeah, there's definitely scope for that. Like, get into areas in which you couldn't otherwise, but also even parts of the level. Like, you could start off with a 1v1 level where, say all the spawns were within a certain area, but then the level's actually bigger, but you have to destroy parts of it. And maybe there's obvious signs, maybe there's, like, things that you can look for in terms of going, okay, well, that's got like a crack in it and that's slightly different to the other textures, so you can open it up. But like, to actually open up other parts of the level to make the level bigger, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. No, that sounds so freaking cool. Like that's the crap that I'm talking about. At what point did people just stop doing new things? That's man, I think that's kind of one of my driving forces for SNG. It's like this game is it's getting stale. I feel like that's kind of why people leave, because they get nothing out of doing the same thing over and over and over again. And stuff like that, the freaking blow door, like that's so freaking cool, man. It's like a whole new aspect to the game.
Well, that's it. And, there's so much scope in the game itself, and there's so much there already that you can play around with. And, all the great work you're doing, Salad Badger and Proxy One, and many more that I haven't mentioned, it's just so refreshing because there is so much scope. Even in just the levels, like there's so many levels.
Yeah.
There's so many good levels.
Thousands.
So many good levels that don't get played, or that people don't see. And Observatory can be a good chance because you can obviously pick your free levels and play ones that people wouldn't have otherwise seen and played and get a bit of exposure that way. But the point being, the game has so much scope. Even now, it'd just be criminal not to try and make the most of it,
Yeah. So on
actually, sorry, dude.
No, go ahead.
There was one more thing I was thinking of, which was I mentioned about the blow doors, but God, I think I've forgotten.
Be wary.
Jesus Christ. I'll tell you what, I'm sorry. I have forgotten, but if I remember it, I'll come back to it if that's all right.
So actually, to add on kind of like the whole new map concept idea, I just thought of this, but I was actually one of my good friends. He doesn't play Descent, but we talk about it a lot. Obviously he knows it's one of my passions, and I don't know, we kind of share our passions and kind of like go with that. Anyways, he helped me come up with this idea that I never thought about. And this is kind of like the beautiful thing about people who have pre-game knowledge but like don't really know Descent. He was like, wait, so like you just spawn? Like there's no invuln? And I said, well, there's invuln. And he goes, okay. Well, like there's no like spawn pods or anything? And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, well, sometimes, you get spawn killed, but you can prevent it by going in certain holes. So what I did, with his discretion and us like shooting ideas at each other, I created the concept for a room that you spawn in that cannot be shot inside of, but that you can fly out of from the inside. So you basically spawn in these, like any random assortment of these spawn pods, whether it be in the floor, in the wall, or in the ceiling. You spawn in these pods, and they can't affect you until you move out of it. And if you create 8 spawns, that's a 1 in 8 chance that they can shoot a smart, or kill you as soon as you get out. So, and by the way, just to add, you can actually see out of this is you can keep it or not, it just depends. It's easy to remove, but you can actually see out of the spawn pod, right? So if he's in front of you, you can't, you don't have to just run out immediately,
Oh, that's really cool.
It's a really cool concept that I want to eventually explore for a real map.
Well, it makes sense because, like the levels should be different and there should be certain things in certain levels to make them different and to explore it. And I did something similar in one of my levels called Swing for the Fences, which was basically a one-room dogfighting level, which having watched Field of Dreams and really like film.
By the way.
Thanks, dude. I made something similar, which I used like a crop field for the sides, like around the edge of a baseball field, and I basically employed the same idea which you said, which is that you use a texture on one side, so if you're inside you can't see outside, but then the spawn points you put on the outside, so then they can see in, they can choose when they want to go in. So it makes perfect sense to me, like you mentioned it to me. They can choose when to go in and they're not having to worry about getting spawn killed instantly.
Exactly, or killed by missiles.
Yeah, exactly. And especially for like a dogfighting level and being in one room and there not being a chance of like the other person being on like the other side of a big map to you when you spawn, I just thought as something different, like that would be quite cool to have. Like, you could just pick your moment and bolt out, get a weapon first.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that should exist in the main maps. I think there's a capacity for not even coders, but just map makers to do something like that. And it's honestly kind of interesting to hear that you also had that idea. Like, I feel like, I don't know, that's the type of stuff. Like, that's another thing about Descent. Like, we can do this too. We're not just restricted to this or that. We can make competitive play better in the sense that we prevent, spawn killing, which is a major problem in Descent. I'd argue probably the worst problem. Just getting spawn and then instantly killed. You know.
Yeah, I think especially, and this isn't to be critical, but with retro there was an issue with respawning quite close to people sometimes, or it wouldn't always select the furthest spawn point away. So with newer levels being used, which isn't necessarily the fault of the port or the fork, with smaller levels being more commonly used, as you've experienced 100 times, I'm sure, you would often spawn in front of someone, and you spawned, unlike Overload, where you got your shield and you've got all your goodies ready to shoot your missiles at them, and Descent you're essentially naked, no invuln, no missiles, just lasers, and you're just ready to get picked off, especially if they've got a smart in your face.
That might be an interesting idea, like a game mode where you start out with all the weapons, and
yeah, that'd be quite cool.
like Overload. I mean, it already exists, like the cheater. You just kind of I think it's its own game mode in the code, but I don't know. I'd have to check it back. But that might be pretty interesting.
Actually, I think D1X Rebirth has an option, like a toggle, where you can choose what weapons you spawn with. Okay. Like you can choose, for instance, like if you say, like for instance, me and you want to do co-op,
right?
And obviously we both like fusion.
Yeah.
So why not just start from level 1 with fusion?
Oh my god, dude! I never even. Why doesn't that already exist? Oh my god, dude, that is such D1 D1X 1.7, man. D1X SNG 1.7, man. I'm telling you.
Absolutely, but again, I think as you've said before, all these things, there's so much scope in the game. It's not that someone's come in with new software that changes the game or changes aspects of it, or changing like how we build levels as such, like in terms of like segment to segment. We're still using segment to segment, but people were able to develop them. Like they're able to manipulate them, and I know it's not really the point, but like if you take someone like Terminal, and I've seen how he made SWAT in Overload, and oh my god, that's so ridiculously convoluted and crazy, like how he's manipulated the segments in a way and inverted them to create the shapes and the geometry that he has, but it just is so refreshing to see, and that same principle can be applied to Descent. It's just so refreshing to see people making the most out of like the almost infinite scope that they have of the game, and it's got so much already there. It's not that someone's brought something new. They're dipping into the well.
One thing I will say about that is I think Blargit, and of course I had to bring him up, man. Blargit is absolutely insane when it comes to creating complicated shapes.
He's doing crazy stuff at the moment, and it's really refreshing to see.
Yeah, he started making maps again. Have you seen his new map ISS 22?
I haven't seen ISS 22, but I've seen a couple that he's made recently, and big fan.
ISS 22, by the way, Blargit is easily, in my opinion, the best map maker of all time. My opinion. I mean, he's even made. I got to jump back on that. He's even made some really big DCL maps. Like huge maps that actually were played competitively. So he's proven that he can do it on a competitive scale. Maps that I'm referring to, like I Don't Know and Swiss Cheese Sorrow. Those are really big maps.
Oh, dude. Yeah, Swiss Cheese Sorrow, big fan. Nice for dogfighting, especially. Not too big. I mean, it's nice to have a range of like different size levels and different levels in general, but it's nice for a dogfighting level just to deke out in there. It's and his light and geometry, the skate ramp that he added in there in the the side room. In Swiss Cheese Sorrow.
Yeah. The half cylinder, like the corner of the cylinder type ramp.
And he likes the stairs. I mean, I know the stairs aren't in Swiss Cheese Story, but I really like the stairs he's made. I know it sounds like crazy to say from all the things he's made, and like all the different geometry and shapes, but
So
yeah.
have you seen Metal Garden?
I have seen Metal Garden, yeah. I couldn't play it originally because I'm one of the few that actually plays on, I think, 640 by 320, and I think maybe C1 is as well.
Really?
It just feels like the original game. Yeah, it just feels more. I know it's modern ports playing on Retro, playing on Rebirth.
Okay.
But like for some reason, I don't know. I know they're not true to the original such, but I just like seeing the text as it was and size the way
like
as
the
it
low
was.
res and everything.
I like the low res. I'll happily play low res. I mean, I'll struggle to see for a bit, but you adapt to it. Like Chocolate, for instance, playing D1 Chocolate, I love it. I have no issue at all with it being native graphics and graphics representative of the time. Like in the 90s, I would gladly play it, and to me, it's the only way to play single player. Do play it in multiplayer, but unfortunately, not too many people other than me and Bird's Eye are too keen to play multiplayer, which is a shame. But sorry, I've gone on a segue. Going back to Blargate.
Please go ahead.
But just he's again like now he's making such great shapes and levels, and Metal Garden's a great example, like you said, of him doing that, and just really refreshing.
Yeah, I mean, I look up to Blargate in a lot of ways as far as like his shapes. I mean, he taught me how to make a what are they called? Like I think it's a hypercube. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. It's like a cube contained within a cube that you can manipulate to make complicated shapes.
Yeah, so you can split. Yeah. So like ahead. In say like in Devil, for instance, because I always used to use either the official or the unofficial version of Devil, and then I moved on to STL Devil years later for modern day use, and but you can split a cube. So rather than having to, if you haven't got enough sides, instead of dividing what you've got, you can times it, which you split a cube and then you give yourself more cubes so you can make shapes that you wouldn't have otherwise been able to make with less cubes, if you know what I mean.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great tool. It's a great it's not so much a tool, but you know what I mean. Like it's a great asset in terms of making levels and making the shapes that he does.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, he makes I've literally seen him make circles out of cubes. I mean, like I don't know. I think oh yeah, that's right. It was. Let me get the name here. I just want to give the name so anyone like listening can go check it out. But he did a map. By the way, Estrada, I don't know how to spell it, but he literally made a freaking tree, like a straight up tree.
That's insane.
Like, how did you like? Insane. It looks like, and he made like a mushroom in there, and then he has stairs and like this massive archway that's a gateway. I mean, the stuff that he's doing is absolutely insane.
Yeah, I mean, with the tree, I thought he would have maybe done, 4 segments overlapping, and then maybe used like a texture on like each end of the corner. So like you got like a cross sticking out, but no, he's actually made it even more complicated, and it's just again more things that you wouldn't have necessarily thought were possible, and even tried. But like as in like because of the complexity of it. Sorry, not. It looks really good.
Right.
Yeah.
I found that map. It's called PTMC Storage Facility. I kid you not. Blargate made a freaking computer, like a genuine computer with a keyboard, in an office in that map. If you have not seen that map, you need to go check it out. It actually uses triggers to open up a certain part of the map. Blargate, as far as I know, is pretty much the only guy making competitive DCL maps that have triggers in them. So definitely check that out.
Just going back to it, we were talking about levels before, and I said I couldn't remember one of the ideas, but I think I might have remembered it. So you mentioned about triggers with Blargate's levels, right?
Right.
One thing I really wanted to do was I wanted to. Certain people have added things to make certain levels play differently. Like Lito, for instance, in Fourier, he's made it so that you can't pick up missiles on the outside. You have to go into the main room to pick up missiles. So to draw people in, to make them come into the middle. What I wanted to do for a level, which I do plan intend to do one day was I was going to do a level called Control or something of the likes, not to be confused with obviously the level that Bahamut made, which I really like as well.
Yeah.
But you can use the triggers and switches. Well, I say switches. You can use the triggers to. What I wanted to do was I wanted it to have triggers based in the level in doorways, so that texture would appear in the main room, like in the main dog room, and it would tell you where that person is in the map. Because if they're not in the main room and they're not dogging you, not fighting you, then and if they're, I'm not saying this of every map, but if they're being like a bitch and running away,
Right.
then it could tell you like from because you could obviously pair it to trigger a switch or a texture in the main room, and again, just something in which there's so much more scope with all these tools that are already there, and it's great to see that he's obviously been doing that too, and just anything that's expansive and new and trying to do something differently. Great, yeah.
Okay. I mean, you're right. Like, it's honestly like you said before. It is refreshing to have people like Blarget who continue to do new things. And dude, honestly, I don't know why you're holding back, man. You really need to. You really need to make another map, man. Like, go crazy, man. I'll support it. I'll push it.
Yeah.
I'll put it in my observatory lineup, man. I want to see that go on. But
I appreciate it, dude. But I got to say, with the maps, is that I don't know. It's difficult because you want to make things that you like. Like I always felt like I didn't necessarily want to make something because it was popular or because it makes the most of a certain weapon. It was always more a case of like wanting to make something that either made me laugh or just like using real world examples and things and to think of how to put them into the game, because having played so many levels and having looked at so many levels, especially if you're trying to force it, what often happened to me was that I would make a room or I'd make a bit of geometry, and then after 3 or 4 hours, as is often the case because you get immersed in it, like you said before with the coding, you get immersed in it, you keep going it, and then the time flies by. But then 3 or 4 hours later, when you're sitting there and you're freezing because you haven't had anything to eat and you're still sitting in the same position, and your mind is just like, and you just But then you think, shit, I've just seen that. That's you're like, oh, they're the pillars from Fused, or you're like, that's the pillars from Eris, or that's the bit from Grows that uses the reactor area, and you just, it's hard if you kind of force yourself to do it not to recreate things that you've already seen, which is in a way a testament to them, like how good obviously these people have been at making the geometry in the first place. But then you don't want to just make something for the sake of it and to copy. So I don't know, I always like the idea of taking things in the real world and then like employing them. But I don't know, I'd like to make some more levels, but I also don't want to sit here for like 10 hours and waste an evening or a weekend and then come up with nothing. I'm working on one level though.
Okay, that was going to be one of my questions. So you have upcoming projects?
I have one or two. They're half made, and there's one in particular that I'm hoping to bring out by February when OBS comes back, which I'm kind of hoping that it might make people laugh, if nothing else.
That's one thing I've always admired about your maps is it's like, because no one else is doing this, man. Like, and actually, a lot of my maps where I, for instance, I had the Josh hole. I kind of took inspiration from your maps. So like, if you go back to all your maps, like some of the notable ones, like 7-Eleven was more of a serious map, I feel like. But one thing I will say, that map is great, by the way. Probably top 3 one of my favorite maps of all time. But when you got crap like Ass Butt and you got like Ostrich Pro, for instance, like Bird's Nest. That's just so funny, man. Like this stuff is so beyond. I don't know. What is that map I'm thinking of? I want to say Ass Butt obviously is hilarious. Like genuinely a piece of art, like the Picasso of the Descent universe. But
a piece of ass.
Yeah, Super Happy Funland. That right there.
Okay.
I will say that I know when I first started map making, that was the only map as far as I know, and especially then, that was the only map where I just saw someone having fun with maps. Like before that, it was like like really serious, this texture across the whole level, DKH fan, repetitive. And then Super Happy Funland was like a huge breath of fresh air. Like genuinely, I genuinely take a lot of inspiration from Super Happy Funland and that type of environment because like not only was it a functional map, but it was also fun. Like who's doing this?
Thanks,
Who's
dude.
putting these custom textures in here? And I really enjoyed it.
I really appreciate it, dude, and it does mean a lot. Um, I mean, with regards to the level, like if you're gonna sit there for 3 or 4 hours at a time, and maybe you come back to the level, maybe you play with people, like you might as well enjoy it. It might as well be something you want to make. There's nothing worse than sitting there,
Yeah.
like I kind of touched on before, and making something that you're not really invested in, and you're not a big fan of, and because you just feel like you just wasted the time. But it should be fun, and I again like playing the game. I remember having like the official and the unofficial version of Devil,
Mm.
and I remember making levels, and I made some back then, which I found, which have obviously been swiftly destroyed, and no one will ever see again.
Right.
But no, that was it, because you try it, you do something, you add different elements, you try different geometry, you single player you might add certain robots or power ups at certain points. Multiplayer, you play test it and you see how it plays, you see where people tend to be, you try and think of like where the missiles will come up, because obviously they're a big factor, or how many to even put in the first place, and you just immerse yourself in it and you keep going and going and building and building, and you just and it was fascinating for me as a kid just to do that, and to have something like that was like nothing else. The game was like nothing else, being 3D and being able to fly around. The level editor, Devil, it felt like that to me too. And obviously the more time you spend on it, like with your coding for instance, the more you learn, and the more obstacles you have to get over, but then you
Right.
learn from that too. And it fascinated me in what you could do, and putting something that you thought or that you like in the game. Like it wasn't just purely one way. It wasn't just that obviously Parallax and developers made the game and there it is. It was that you actually put something back to it, and it's just, even now it fascinates me and I love it. I do. I am sad, but yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there's
Have fun.
yeah, absolutely right. There's but you're right. Like it's just different. It's like a fully immersive experience, and to be able to like channel creativity and like make the game as big or bigger and make it better and kind of make things for it. That's honestly something really good. Where would we be without retro or rebirth or map making, right? It's really given the legs for Descent to walk, I feel like.
Yeah, it's definitely played a part in over the time. Um, you know, just going back to the map making, it really has to be something you enjoy, and it's far too easy to make something because you think it's making it out, making it because it's popular, or making because oh, this level does it or that level does it. But just have faith in what you think is good, and put it out there and see. Whether it gets played 100 times or whether it never gets played doesn't mean it's any better or worse, but just the fact that you try and put things out and enjoy it. And, you've not lost anything, have you?
Right. So here's another question for you. On the topic of
Right.
maps still, because I feel like that was one of the things I was really really excited to get to talk about because I mean you are a really good map maker. What in your
Keep
opinion is a very underrated map maker? Like someone you feel like doesn't get the credit that they deserve.
Leto.
Leto.
Leto
Yeah.
he was a very good map maker, and he didn't make too many. He made some D2 ones, which people might not remember, but he made obviously quite a few. He made a handful of D1 levels like Fourier and Laplace and Retuman, which are all among my favourites. There's probably a couple too many missiles in Laplace, but yeah, that's me being a bitch. No, Hilbert as well. I used to really like. I used to play him in a lot in it, and he made some really good levels that were really clever as well.
Mhm.
And I was a huge fan. But I'd say him definitely is one of them.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. I mean, he released a few maps and then it got a lot of played. One thing I will say, Ritumon actually was one of my DCL homes at one point, and I wasn't really a fan of what was that other map? It was like that really really vertical map, but I mean it was
Oh,
still a good map.
Fourier.
Is that what it was?
It had like a big open room that was more vertical than it was wide. It was a big 3D space. It had platforms at like different
Yeah, yeah,
parts of
yep, yep,
the
yep.
room.
That's
Yeah,
it. And it
yeah,
had like a
that's
tunnel
Fourier.
too.
Yeah, tunnel at the top, and then it wrapped around like a coil, wrapped around the whole level. And he used reactor cubes. That's something if we're talking about levels. So he utilized the technique of using reactor cubes to avoid missile spawning in certain locations. So
Oh,
yeah, which is clever. Again, it's something again in the original code. It's in the original game, but
wow.
he made it so that to force people into the main room to fight, to encourage engagement, he made the outer cubes reactor cubes so missiles wouldn't spawn there. So then if the fight isn't there and they can't get missiles, then people will naturally be more inclined to go and fight,
Yeah,
which less hit and run and more dogfighting, which to me is I love it personally. But yeah,
dude, that's you said that earlier, and I was thinking like, I wonder how that would be possible. And reactor cubes, dude, that's genius, man. I didn't even think about that.
so many things that
Wow,
are in the game. I mean, I sound like a broken record, but there's so much scope in it still.
wow. As far as like all your maps, which one do you think is your favorite? I know
Good
my answer.
question.
I know my answer.
Uh, that's a good question. I honestly don't know how to answer. I I think I'll always like Super Happy Funland the most. It's the one that I kind of go back to and fly around in, and it's dumb, and I know it's dumb, and
Wait, which one
but
was that again? Sorry.
oh, sorry, dude. Super Happy Funland.
That. Oh, yeah, for sure.
it's again, I know it's dumb, but it's one of the first ones I made. It might even be the first one I made coming back. Um, Slight segue. I came back in mid to early 2017, I believe. It might have even been 2016. It probably was 2016 actually, mid 2016, and it was just sitting on the sofa one day looking at videos on YouTube, and just had the idea of looking up Descent videos and Descent multiplayer, and haven't had a thought of it back when I used to play on Khan, and I watched one of Ronkley's videos, one of his DCLs, and I was hooked
What?
again, and I was suddenly downloading the new retro 1.4 X3 it would have been back then, and
Wow.
D1, D2, and yeah, got into it that way. Played on DCL for a long time, and OBS, which
Yeah.
yeah, really look forward to OBS. OBS is it's a huge selling point for Descent now.
Just a kind of little tease advertisement. I've been communicating with Birdseye, and
Okay.
I think I wanna make a SNG version where everything is toggleable because we're talking about doing a deathmatch tournament.
Nice,
Whether it
nice.
be our anarchy or like a deathmatch game takes about 10 minutes. Like you would like I totally underestimated how long it would take to kill someone with 2,000 shields. But
Yeah, right.
we might have something else to look forward to aside from OBS. OBS obviously being the king. Like Ronklai's host abilities are severely underrated. Like his ability to host
He
something
is.
like that and use all the triggers and hotkeys is unreal.
And to keep all those plates spinning at the same time
Exact and
seamlessly,
consistency.
he does such a good job. Yeah,
I'm
he
pretty
does.
sure he's only canceled like what 1 or 2 times the past 7 years. I mean, aside from holidays, of course, right? But it's like I don't know. I have a lot of respect for Ronclay in that degree, but I really hope
Too.
that we can start doing Bird's Eye tournaments because we did a Bird's Eye tournament not too long ago, and
Yeah, we played. I played against you in the qualifiers, but I couldn't make the finals. Which I have to mention this because you can't mention this, but you happened to win it, the
yeah,
winner. Because obviously you don't want to brag, but
sure.
you defeated everyone else, and everyone else was rubbish, and and you
No, no, no.
you did really well. To be fair.
It was a really fun. I was really glad to play it. Although, that's right. It was chilly.
Yeah.
That map was really, or not the map. One thing I didn't know about Rebirth is that it actually uses the primary game function, where if you run out of Vulcan, even in your next life, you still don't have that ammo yet. Like I thought that was a
Oh yes,
bug. I thought that was a bug,
yeah,
but
gun
apparently
itself
it's
has
just a
ammo.
retro thing.
Yeah, yeah, they've changed it, didn't they? So if you picked up a gun, you'd get 2,500. Whereas in Rebirth, it was if you ran out, you ran out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty sure there was no respawning ammo, or maybe there was. I don't remember, but I just remember getting really frustrated.
Yeah. I think in Rebirth they had respawn ammo because I remember Vulcan ammo kept coming back up again. I believe in the early versions of Retro, or at least in D2, that they kept getting respawning ammo, but like crazy amounts. So they limited that, and it might have been from 1.4x1 or 1.4x3 that they changed it. But yeah, it makes sense that the gun would have a certain amount because it kind of sucks if you like, oh wow, Vulcan, I'm going to tickle the other person, and then it's like, oh, got no ammo.
I feel like
it's again, I do.
I was just gonna say like I'm not a fan of it. It's probably the only thing keeping me from wanting to play Rebirth. I mean, really, I just think it's such a I don't know. I feel like if you pick up a weapon, you should just be able to use it right then and there, regardless, right? I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's like playing a RPG and getting a weapon. It's like, oh no, you need to upgrade like 5 levels to get to it. And it's like, oh great, yeah, well,
Yeah,
fantastic.
like great. I picked it up, risked my life going to the dogfighting room for a weapon I can't use.
It just jam, So someone's in front of you, fully loaded fusion, and you're like trying to fire a Vulcan at them, and just like, oh shit,
Yeah,
can't do
absolutely.
anything. Yeah.
I feel like for a lot of people,
Even
it's a
though,
good weapon.
sorry, dude. I'd say even though like it might not be like ideal, but even something like that's quite cool because then it makes you think. It makes you think. Okay, well, I have to get ammo first. I have to do this first. I can't just. I like the idea of the game making you think and bringing up things like that. That you just it challenges you and it does push you in a way. But yeah, also it's not great if you are there with no Vulcan and the other person does. So yeah.
So here's a question for you. What is one or two pilots that you wish that could come back and play more consistently?
Oh, I'd love to play more Birdseye. I honestly think he's the
Really?
best.
But
And
he's around.
his
He plays.
he is he plays more overload to be fair, and it's just how it is with schedules and when people are on. But I consistently for all the years I played in DCL and through OBS up to now, I've played him a crap ton of times, and his mechanics are like no one else. His
Right.
dogfighting, he can do the hit and run and the sly stuff just as well as he can do the fighting. And I know, having fought him so many times and having spoke to him so many times as well, he's very much like me in the sense that he loves the dogfighting. That's
Right.
what excites him about the game. Like he wants to go and fight. Like he doesn't want to do the 1,000 cuts, like death by 1,000 cuts. He wants to go in there. He wants to, and he can use all the weapons. It's not like he's cheesing anything. And when someone's obviously worked at their game so much and so much skill, and it's just really impressive. And I love playing against them. It makes you think as well. It's not just like just the fighting, but just genuinely like exposing you to all sorts of things and tactics and moves and that make you better as well.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. I haven't really had a lot of opportunity to play Birdseye. The only times I really get to play them are FFAs, but I don't know. FFAs I just feel like aren't a very good measure of skill. I feel like the skill really comes out when both of you are using the map to your each advantage, and you're playing strategically and planning proxies and waiting, looking
Yeah.
for cues.
I
But
think what's nice about FFAs is that you've got so many opportunities to engage, whereas in
that's also
1v1,
true. Yeah.
but then to me, and it's only my opinion, but FFAs are more for fun and more for like practice and stuff. And it's good that we have them in the OBS. I like that they
Yeah.
have they implemented them not just in the wild card, but at the start of OBS. It's a nice way of warming up and getting into it. And as much as you want to win, you still want to win, and obviously kill everyone as quick as you can. But it's, I know what you mean. It's not the same tactics. It's not the same game as it is 1v1, as it is so many pilots, but it's good for just creating or giving you more opportunities to get into scenarios where you're shooting the other person and than you would otherwise have in that 1v1. So much better for practice, I guess.
There's definitely good opportunities for that, and that's actually what I'm kind of. Man, I don't want to leak it too much, but deathmatch is really good. By the way, I just want to put this on the podcast, archive it in history. Lee is the one who came up with the idea for deathmatch. In fact, I can bring it up right now. He said, let's see. Let me find it. It was 4 days. It took me 4 days to put it in the game, by the way.
I do appreciate it, by the way. Thank you.
No, of course, man. Like, it was such a good idea. Like, so his idea, for those who don't know deathmatch, or really, and I can explain SNG later. Basically, it's my fork, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, I put this game mode in that Lee came up with, where basically, instead of 1 to 20, which is the typical DCL game, you have 2,000 shields, which is, 20 lives equivalent to just 1. It's great because we did it on land. You could swallow like eight or 9 smarts, like direct smarts, and it just takes so long to kill someone that it's like, that descent rush you get for when you're close to dying or you want to stay alive. It's like that lasts for like 10 minutes. Like, deathmatch is just unbelievable serotonin the whole time. But
I feel like there's so much scope to it. I mean, first of all, I got to say, I threw like 2,000 ideas at code. Some of them were serious, some of them not serious, and some of them were rubbish. And yeah, I'm glad that this one kind of stuck. But he's the one who did all the work implementing it. I was just the one sounding off because I was sad and I wasn't on Discord. Sorry, I was on Discord and just throwing them out. But yeah, dude, I just feel like. In terms of fighting and like longer engagements possibly, but also like if a smart's not going to kill you, do you then get complacent and think, oh, okay, I can eat a smart, or it doesn't matter because I'm still alive. But then you're losing. Is it 120 shield you lose with a smart, or is it more?
I think it's like 200 something. I'm gonna be honest with you, because you have 2,000 shields, you take about 8 or 9. I don't know. I don't know the exact number, but it's a lot. Yeah.
Sorry, I was thinking of Overload, because Overload goes up to 120. But yeah, if you're taking up if you lose 200 off that shield, like your main shield, but then you don't die, like, do you get complacent and think, oh, that's all right, I can suck it up? And then do you think only when you're down to like, I don't know, the last 100, like, oh shit, like I have to be defensive now, like, or I just feel like it's something that pushes things and changes and makes you think. Like, it should all make you think. It should. Okay.
Yeah, so there's 2 ways to go about it, and you're totally right. I've played probably 5 or 6 official deathmatch games, so I'm pretty well aware of kind of like the strategies involved. I feel like, so there's 2 ways to go about it. You can just go, crazy. You can dive in head first, like into eat smarts, because you're right. Complacency does exist when you can eat multiple smarts. But it's kind of one of those slow creeping things. You can take all this damage, but eventually that'll catch up to you, right? Because I'm playing against Jedi, and I have 300 shields, and he has 1,100. That's because I was being so reckless with the fusion, and he was more apprehensive with the Vulcan or the spread fire. So it's like it rewards strategy, while at the same time also rewards being chaotic. And then the other way, of course, is playing it slow the entire time, which is what usually wins. But I don't know if you can land. And by the way, I'm throwing this out there. The best weapon to use in deathmatch is by far plasma. Take my word for it.
Oh, yeah.
Plasma's fire rate is dominating in that type of game mode. But it's just, I don't know. You can play it calm or you can play it crazy, and there's definitely different ways to play it, and I think it's really good for that. But
one thing I can think of as well is like, it changes how you play a Vulcan as well, because like we're saying in retro, obviously you come with a Vulcan of 2,500. Obviously it depends on the map, because it might be that you've got extra pickups, so an additional 1,250 for each one. But if you're in a map that's got limited Vulcan ammo and you're in a huge dogfight, like in deathmatch mode, then you've got to think like you can't just cheese the Vulcan, and you can't just be like, okay, well I can cheese them, they'll
Right.
die, and then move on and try and get either more ammo or you have to use it carefully, you know. And
Right.
I feel like it's not as strong because you're not going to die and then be able to pick it up again with full ammo in it.
Right.
You're going to waste it, and then that's it for your equivalent of 20 lives, or there, you know, for the game. Then you've got no Vulcan
Yeah,
unless you can get an ammo pickup.
that's actually an extremely accurate presumption. Vulcan becomes significantly used less, but only used in conjunction with other missiles, specifically the Homer. Like I'm only using Vulcan if I can rail them with like 4 homers, right? Other than that, I'm not touching it. You're right. Like Vulcan is not nowhere near overpowered in that game mode. You might get halted, but that's just about it. I'd say it probably does the least amount of damage in deathmatch mode.
Yeah. Absolutely, because I mean, you'd have to hit every round as well, but like you've only got 2,500 rounds as a minimum. You might have more depending on the level and other pickups, but if you don't, then you're quite limited. You know, especially for you can only die once, or you can't even die once if you want to win. But
Right.
obviously, you know, key to winning, don't die. But yeah, you got one pickup, and that's it.
So I got two more questions for you, and then we'll wrap up. Um, my next question is if you had any advice, because I'm sure that there are some people watching that are from Reddit or from other communities. I've been sharing this everywhere, but I know that there are some people who aren't even aware of SNG or ARN or SNG. Well, I just said SNG twice. Sorry, Retro, Rebirth. They just know Descent, right? I think there's 859 people in r/Reddit or Descent. So as far as you, because you've been in this community, you've been playing this game a lot longer, you have like a wiser perspective of the whole uh, the Descent community. What, what advice would you give people that want to get involved in Descent, or maybe in the community, or really just want to enjoy it more? What's your advice to that?
Honestly, have fun and stick at it. Like you know, if you can't go into it thinking like that you're going to play someone that's literally mastered the game and a level like for over 20 years, and you can't think I should be beating them or I should be getting a certain score because it's all, you know, you don't have a point of reference. Like you know, for instance, if I was to start now and I played Jedi Luke, odds are I'm getting 0 or I'm getting -1 or -2, and it doesn't mean that me or whoever else is starting is bad. It just means that they're fresh, they're new, they're coming into it, and it doesn't matter necessarily where you are. It's where you're going, and you know you're only gonna improve and move up by keeping at it, by keeping playing. Try and expose yourself to different things, like you know, trying to use different weapons, trying to think more expansively, like what you can do in certain situations. Think critically, like you know, why did I die? What can I do to not die next time? What worked, for instance, not just the negatives, but like what worked? Can I do that again? Have fun with it because you know it breaks if you feel like you know through the process that you're grinding it and you're burning out because burnout's no fun. I mean
Right.
we've spoken about it already, and
Yeah.
but keep at it, keep trying, be realistic and have fun. See, I think that's the key.
Yeah, definitely. And for those that aren't aware, there are, of course, the retro fork and as well as the rebirth fork. I will be including that in the description of both the Twitch upload and as well as the YouTube upload. I highly encourage you to either if you get in contact with me, I'm Code. If you get in contact with me, or I'm sure Lee would also be willing, I'm sure
Sure,
we'd
yeah.
be more than willing to welcome you into the community, set you up with controls, whatever you may need to get set up. We as a community will come together and help you because we're actively looking for more people. We need more people. We need people that it doesn't matter. We need people that can program. We need people that can build. We need people that can play. Any type of activity is really good for this game. And if you follow all the steps that Lee just gave you and you pursue this game, I promise you'll become part of something that's bigger than just a community. I mean, we're really just a big family. It's funny, you spend
Absolutely.
so much time talking and being with these people that when you actually meet them in real life, you know them already.
Yeah.
And it's a really beautiful thing, and Descent's a beautiful, wonderful career, or not career. community. And if you're interested, please reach out, because we're more than willing to welcome anyone. But
Yeah, exactly. We are. Everyone's really friendly, very helpful, and more than happy to help set up and help you with what ports to use, what not literally ports as well. Obviously, when you
Right.
set up for the tracker and stuff, but what levels to use and how to do certain things and config and setup. Just ask. There's nothing lost by it. There's no harm. Just if you want to get involved, please do, and just seek us out because we're more than happy to help.
Absolutely. All right. So the last question. This is going to be the podcast ritual. I plan on asking this every single episode, and you get to answer the first one. Are you ready?
Oh, is it? What am I wearing?
No. I thought about that, but no. So the question is,
Go on.
do you have any ghost, haunted, unexplainable, or Matrix stories?
Very good question.
No is a very okay answer.
I'll be honest, I'm gonna sound lame, but I don't. Sorry, because I'm lame. But I'm sure other people will have interesting stories. Yep. No, afraid not. Sorry, dude.
That's okay. I know I'm gonna do a podcast one day and I'm gonna get a crazy interesting answer. I just gotta keep asking. Yeah. But Lee, man, it's been a pleasure to have you, man. Seriously, you're one of my close friends. You inhabit what a good person in a niche community is, and I mean, who doesn't like Lee, right? Well, anyways.
It's very kind of you, mate, and I really appreciate it, and likewise. It's just a joy to be a part of, and not just to send, to play Overload as well, and to obviously me and Code being the Space Cowboys, and we all have a lot of fun, and it's great to be a part of, and really glad I am.
Absolutely. I just wanted to thank you, Lee, for being a part of the pilot episode, trusting me as a host, and as well as carrying on the conversation for so long. I'm not sure what time it is there where you're at overseas, but I really appreciate you taking the time and giving this a shot, man.
Likewise, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right.
Alrighty.
My next episode for Proxy Podcast should be coming out next Sunday. Interruptions may happen. I'm full-time in the military, and I'm a full-time student, so I kind of have to make time for it, but trust me, I will. This is literally what I do. This is my life. Anyways, the next episode should be coming out maybe next Sunday. Like I said prior, reach out to me or really anyone in the community as far as getting connected to the community. But this is the segue pilot for what will continue hopefully every week. So once again, thank you, Lee, for participating. And next week we'll have another guest. I haven't decided who yet, but it'll be I'm sure it'll be really good. Hopefully I can get DKH. I feel like that would be a really good one. Or maybe even, anyone, like Spaz, that'd be really cool. But
thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.